Hello, my name is Justin Tidwell. This is a bit of an experiment. One of the things that I have struggled with over the years is people's, my perception of people's misunderstanding of the legislative process in the United States and different entities, be those entities the media or politicians themselves, taking advantage of that to do things that most Americans don't necessarily agree with. Chief amongst those is, quite frankly, dividing us along political lines, the conservative, liberal, things like that. And I want to try to talk about the legislation that's pending in the House and the Senate, and potentially presidential actions through the lens of the way things are supposed to work. And when I say the way things are supposed to work, what I really mean is what the Constitution says, what the United States Code says, and what the legislative body's set of rules say. So each legislative body, the House and the Senate, have their own set of rules. The Constitution says that they get to pick their own rules, which is fine. So, looking at those rules and saying, do they make sense? A couple of examples of the thing that annoy me is I'm on Twitter, and I see senators and congresspersons jumping on Twitter and saying, well, we should do this, well, we should do that. And my response is, well, you're in Congress. You're a member of the House, or you're a senator. If you think that's the right course of action, then go and work to modify the rules of the Senate or the House and make that happen. Don't whine about it on Twitter, right? If you're in a position to act, then act. And that's just a small example. But the concept of what I'm trying to do is go through and look at what the House and the Senate are doing, and ascertain whether it's right, and hopefully get rid of the hyperbole and get rid of the vitriol that I see in our public discourse, through just talking about the facts. We'll see what happens. But I guess before I get started, I should talk about me a little bit, so that those who choose to watch this understand where I'm coming from. So my educational background, I've got degrees in economics, mathematics, business, and engineering from various institutions across the country. I've been in the telecommunications industry for pretty much my entire career. And my career has been, longish, I guess, 20-some years. 30 years, something like that. Anyway, I am a Christian. I say that only because I hope it doesn't affect my analysis, but I want you guys to understand where I'm coming from, so that if there's any bias that I'm not seeing, you can attribute it to something. I would consider myself politically a libertarian, but I guess I'm more of a rule of law kind of person. So, Constitution says X, or the rules that we've agreed to say Y. So that's what we're going to do. But aside from that basic kind of rule of law stuff, if I had to if I had to label myself, I'd label myself a libertarian. And how that shakes itself out is I'm a strong proponent of very limited government. And I'm a strong proponent of trusting people, individuals, to do what's best for them. And government is there only to, I'll say, set the rules and make sure that people are playing fair. The reason that I'm that way is primarily because I don't trust anybody. Well, that's not true. It's not that I don't trust anybody. It's that I believe that we all act first and foremost in our own self-interest. And that includes politicians. So the more power we accrue to politicians and to legislators, and to regulators, the more disincentive to act honorably they have, right? Because the more power that's accrued to me, the more I'm going to have people trying to clamor for my attention and try to make me do X, Y, or try to convince me that doing X, Y, Z is the right thing. And the more opportunity there is for graft, and the more opportunity there is for things like that. Now, the same thing can be said for big business, and that's true. But the difference between big business and government is big business, government can control big business. But if government gets out of whack, nobody can control government. So that's really kind of primarily why I'm for limited government. If people were honorable and upright and selfless and all those wonderful things that all of us say we want to be, but aren't, including me. If all of us were selfless, then I would say that centralized government is a really efficient way to do things. But unfortunately, human beings just aren't that way. Or fortunately, I don't know. Fortunately or unfortunately. I guess fortunately or unfortunately is the wrong word. The way it is, the reality is, human beings aren't that way. So that's where I stand. Hopefully that allows you to have some sense as to where I'm coming from. So let's look at the house. And one of the things that is really neat, actually, about our current day and age is there's a wonderful set of websites that tells us exactly kind of what's going on. And it's congress.gov, and then house.gov, and then senate.gov. And through those websites, you really get a good sense as to what's going on right now. So if we look at those, then what we see is, and we can look at, like on the main page, congress.gov, it tells us that the House of Representatives, the next meeting is January 3rd, starting at 10 Eastern Time, and for the Senate, it's January 3rd, starting 11:30 Eastern Time. If you look at the Senate calendar, it says noon, but something like that, which is great, right? So we can come and we can see, without any misunderstanding exactly what's going to happen. Now, what are illustrious Congress? Now, Senate, it doesn't look like, I haven't seen anything in the Senate in terms of what they're going to be taking up this first week. But what the House is going to be taking up, it looks like, is, now obviously this could change, but what they're talking about taking up initially is, and this is the first thing that any new Congress takes up, is modifying the rules. So generally what they do, apparently, is they take the rules that they chose to govern, like, we're coming up on the 118th Congress, and they'll take the rules for the 117th and then amend them. So I printed out the rules for the 117th, and I printed out the proposed changes. I'm going to read them, and my guess is it's going to be pretty dry. There won't be anything interesting in there, but we'll see. But they are going to ratify that. They should ratify that this week, because those are the rules, so they got to ratify that. They're also doing a couple of little legislative things that don't. I mean, when I looked at them, they didn't seem particularly material to me. But anyway, so my thoughts are to basically have a brief chat about key things that are happening in the legislature. Senate and House. This is all federal. I'm not futzing with state stuff very much. Obviously, this is all related to the United States. I'm not futzing with state stuff very much, because it's just my state matters to me, but I'm sure my state doesn't matter to anybody except for those in my state. So anyway, we'll see how this lands. Like I said, it's an experiment. If it lands well and there's some interest, then great. If it doesn't land well, then it probably won't last too long. So that's a brief introduction, and thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.